special guest with us, Ashley Cardwell. She's a proven surrogate with us, starting her second surrogacy. So we really want to get her perspective on things. She's an advocate. She does a lot of mentoring in our program and in her community. So I really want to hear her perspective and all of that. So Ashley, welcome. Thank you so much for coming and joining and talking with us. So I would love for you to just introduce yourself, give us a little rundown on your surrogacy history, where you're from and your kiddos and all that.
Hi, Monica. Thanks for the introduction. My name's Ashley. I am from Montana, originally from California. What kind of got me into surrogacy was my sister, who was having some questionable issues with her medical history. And so we started the process of trying to figure out a good company to go for and get with her in a positive way. She ended up carrying her own child, but I was, jumped in already, mentally prepared, and I just said, continue on with my path. And so I was able to complete my first surrogacy. As Monica said, I do have some kids. I have two girls. They keep me on my toes and are really excited with every journey that we've done, every process, every letter of mail that has a cell on it. They know
The
it's
kids
Monica and
always take the
Jessica.
good stuff,
So,
right? And then, so
yes.
talk about a little bit about your first journey. So there, it did take you a little while to get there. The road was, crooked to say the least. So, obviously it was very
Yeah.
successful in the long run, but it did take some time. So just talk a little bit about that and your experience and quite literally your delays that you experienced too.
So my first run in, I guess, or delay, we might
Mhm.
call it, able to match really fast, and which was really awesome. Unfortunately, that fell through due to support. On the other hand, my husband Ryan and I were both really excited to see that Monica goes, "Hey, don't worry, we have your back. Let's go through the next process." We did interview with another family. Both parties
For sure.
really liked each other from my perspective. Question:
Yeah.
the dialogue was very flowy, like kind of nice, just like friends. Didn't feel like strangers. And so then we proceeded to go on. I went for medical screening. Unfortunately, I ran into the issue of summer sweets. And so I had to diet a little bit to make sure that my A1C was in a better range or ideally a healthier range. And so I watched my diet and then proceeded to move on with the transfer in early of 2020.
Wow.
Sorry
Oh,
to think about that.
24.
Transfer
24.
2025. Unfortunately, that transfer did
Because you
fail.
delivered in 25, right? Mm-hmm.
Mhm. I
Yep.
because my nephew was born the
Oh, it
Friday
was January.
before, so that was January of
Got it.
25,
Okay.
and then I failed that transfer, and then I had the failed transfer in February. Trying to think, April of 2025, we transferred number two, and it was a successful delivered
Yeah.
Christmas
And your intended fathers
2025.
got to
I had to
experience
think about that.
winter in full
Yeah,
force in Montana.
and it was really nice. So right
Hmm.
before they came, it snowed. And right after they came, it snowed. It was genuinely nice. We had a very
Yeah,
mild
that was a
winter, and
blessing. And just,
they lucked out for sure
yeah, I know. I was
because the
really worried
roads are
about that
not
for
nice
them.
here.
I would, the
Yeah.
driving in that is always, ugh. Yeah. So I wanted to see, like, from your perspective, like, when did you realize that surrogacy was something that you wanted to continue and stay active in? Was it during your first journey? Was it postpartum? Like, what really kind of prompted you to be so active as you are?
I would say,
Hmm.
honestly, being there for delivery, I kind of looked at Ryan and I said, my bubble is not fully
Hmm.
complete, or my circle, I guess, is not fully complete. I want to do it one more time. And he looked at me, he goes, "Do you want to do it for us or do you want to do it for someone else?" And I said, I'm complete with this. Our circle is concrete. And I think this year really just proved to us that we are meant for just to be a family of four, and that
Yeah.
it really filled my why, I guess. I got a whole different aspect when I watched the parents have that
Hmm.
joy, the same joy that I got to experience. And my
Hmm.
cup was overflowing and their cup was overflowing. So that's like a really big wholesome moment, because in the
Yeah.
industry that I work in, I don't always see that. And so it's really hard to see that. And so I just has
Yeah.
really brought kind of
I
my
love that.
why. And so, yeah.
Hodge.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Thanks, Ashley. That it's so awesome to hear like your journey, even though like we've seen it from start to finish, like foremost, but it's so fun to just hear it all over again. And isn't it so funny how we do forget about the dates a little bit? Like all the years just kind of start blending together and you're like, wait a second, what year was that? And here we are in 2026 and like you're about to start your second journey. That's crazy. All right, so pivot a little bit. You are
Mhm.
obviously now very active within our Excel community as a surrogate, right? You talk a lot about it. We love to see your enthusiasm with like spreading the word of surrogacy. What really inspired you to start helping with the outreach and just kind of with the education for other potential surrogates?
I would say it actually stemmed from a lot of my teachers that I work with because I'm the school secretary. A lot of our paras and behavior specialists, they all kind of asked me why I was doing this. And then the more I just talked about it, it just became so free flowing. And the questions they would ask me as to why am I doing it? What made me think of this? And then I go back to like my sister who was really convinced that doctors were telling her she could never have a child. And so it just really made me start questioning. But I mean, it's become such a natural thing because there is articles all the time about something that's happened. And it's like, wow, I never experienced that. And that's
Yeah.
like they say, do you believe everything you read on the internet? My answer is no, I don't. I've been able to say I've done it myself. I've went through, I would even call it a roller coaster with the failed transfer, with my glucose, with failing the 1 hour test and passing the 3 hour test. And even doing that with my own pregnancies, I've done that. So it's not just a biological, it's also IVF. It's all around. Everyone runs into that at some point. And it's even made me look into it a little bit more just because I watched my sister-in-law struggle. She was like, Ashley, how are you pregnant with number two? What am I doing wrong? And it kind of brought a whole nother light of everything. I had already had my second one and we watched my diet control. I watched everything. My husband watched his stuff. And so I watched them struggle for 10 plus years where I felt like I was just whipping them right out. So it was kind of different. So I was able to advocate from, well, that's what you read on the internet, but look at from someone who is able to say, I've done X, Y, and Z. I've gone through some ringer, not all of the ringer. I've never been on that side of the infertility issues, but I'm able to help someone achieve that goal. And so, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I agree. Also being a surrogate myself, it's like that education piece is so important to spread because there are so many negative things on the internet, right? We need to fill that space with the positive, the reputable agencies, the ethical agencies, the experienced surrogates, and hearing from our voices is so impactful. And so it's really great that you've, been able to spread the word, right? How has being involved in like your local events helped shape your own experience as a surrogate?
So I kind of talked to Peyton about this. So I kind of fangirled out one of the local like TikTokers here in Montana was a surrogate. And I was really surprised. She was messaging me. She's like, how do you like your company and like or the agency? And I was like, I feel like they're like my next door neighbor. Like they're right here. They're right my right hand man. She goes, did you guys really do a retreat? And I said, yeah. She goes, I felt like I was ghosted as soon as I delivered. And I said, that's so different from our community. Like it's every step of the way. My kids literally going into baseball and everything, like explaining to them that it's not just pregnancy and they're gone. It's before, during, and after. And even like you build lifelong friends and we get to do those retreats and you're able to continue that. So like I said, having a fangirl moment that she's asking me and I was like, and then I ran into her at the baseball game this weekend. I was like, oh my gosh, like it's funny because she's such an awesome person. And she has said, if I had more support, I would do it. And it really made me think, like sit back and think. And I talked to Ryan about this. I go, you don't realize how much support you have until you have other surrogates go start asking questions about the support and how was the transition of having a failed transfer and having the communication between you and the parents. Like hearing their experience is great, but like being able to say I have a community that is not just here via text. We have the Facebook group that we have emails nonstop, a text messaging. I follow Hodge on social media and I'm like, hey, I am struggling postpartum with this. Is this normal? Totally normal. Like everything I went through, no matter what it was, I had someone in my corner at some point
So to kind of
of
piggyback
the
off that
whole journey.
sorry, Hodge.
Yeah, yeah,
Just to
I love
piggyback
that. And
real quick, Hodge, like I think sometimes it's
no, go ahead.
nice. Like, of course, I can say it as like your case manager, but it's kind of like mom telling you the rules. But then if you have like your sisters or another person either saying something similar or even like, well, this is what worked for me, I think that's so valuable, right? Like, and I think that's something that we have very special within the community that it's, there's this structure of, you can always get me, but then there's 30 other girls that you can ask their experience too, right? Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and we welcome that, right? And again, so like not even I was a surrogate with Monica before I even became a employee with Monica, right? So it's like talking to other surrogates who have done surrogacy through other agencies, it kind of validates your experience as a surrogate because you're like, well, my journey was way positive, and any hiccups was like faced with just love and communication, and there was no ghosting ever. And
Mhm.
of course, everybody's experience is different, but I've also experienced the same thing where like you keep talking about it, and then other surrogates that have done journeys elsewhere, they come out of the
Mhm.
woodworks and they're like, wait, what? Like that
Mhm.
is how my journey could be. So yeah, I totally can agree with that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so
I'll go
much,
ahead and turn
Ashley.
it
And
over to
I know
Monica.
we talk about this a lot, but like in this public forum, I will give you, your huge shout out. And you are one of the biggest cheerleaders, and you make me so proud. And like you've just gotten better with your posts, and you do lots of little community events, and you have your own little swag bags now. And so it's you've gone above and beyond, and like I can't thank you enough. And like I know you enjoy it too, but it's also remarkable that you're willing to put in that much effort and time for this community, and I appreciate it greatly. So it makes me get weepy, but yeah, you're doing so great, and it's amazing to watch your growth, truly. Yeah. So I wanted to kind of a little bit more on like your events and things that you're doing, because you've been doing like these, like kind of community events, or like your fit mom group and things like that, where you're meeting other women. And so how has
Mhm.
that kind of shaped how you're thinking about surrogacy, like how you're explaining surrogacy out in the world? A lot of times this is the first time they've ever heard of it, and they're like, wait, what? And so how has that kind of shaped how you're feeling about surrogacy, and like what's your most favorite thing to share with people about surrogacy in general?
So what's shaped me honestly the most is the fact as I listened to their stories of like what they wanted to do and what I mean, they ask all their questions and I'm like, okay, so what made you I guess I start asking them open-ended questions, and sometimes I can relate or I can relate to one of the girls like that's in our group and everything. But I mean, it's like when I went to this mom's group this last week, a lot of them were questionable because they're like, oh, and I was like, but honestly, they're like they see, and I've seen this post a lot lately. They see the grass level, the monetary, and this, and I go, but there's so much more that you learn from it. Like I tell them, I've learned more about myself than I actually thought. I actually put more time into myself. Monica sends me little things that like, hey, put the skincare, like here's a little skincare like tester, try it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I feel better. I think about it and I always ask them like before they leave, is this going to fill your Y cup? Is it going to drive you to feel like a better person? Is this and that's like I always ask them that. Is this something that will make you feel positive or feel negative? And if it's a positive, we go into further discussion. If they say, hey, it's not really something, and I appreciate you educating me, now I know, then you know what? We just say, hey, great, or it's not the time at this time. And so I really lead that conversation, but it really has really made me shape how I look at the world, how I parent, and especially with the where I work and dealing with a lot of therapists and stuff, it's really hard
Right.
to not therapy them, I guess, because we've been able to therapy. So it's like I have to roll back. I really do have to say, hey, are you looking at it for this? Are you looking at it for that? And if you can't look at it for this and you're only seeing that goal, like I think the one thing I always say is I want any family to be a part of the hood at the end of the day. And how can I help someone get to that hood? If you want to join my hood of surrogacy, great, because you're going to help that family join the best hood, aka parenthood.
Yeah,
And if
and
you
I
can do
think that
that, that's
you mentioned
fantastic.
something to me last week, or maybe even the week before, that it's even helped you kind of like get over these like little, like, it's scary to kind of talk to people for the first time, but it each time it gets easier and easier. So even that shaping you as a person, right? Or preparing you for the next big thing, or
Yeah.
teaching the girls to like go for what you want, or what you want to advocate for, right? So it's like this full circle constantly.
Oh, definitely. I think my Brian says my confidence has gone up because I used to just be like and get ready for work. And now I'm like, no, I'm actually gonna make an effort. I'm just even if it's something simple like just doing my brows, but just the attitude of waking up and
Yeah.
saying, I have a goal and here I'm gonna do it. And like Hodge, getting up early and working out or in the afternoon, just getting that and making it a routine. That is something I've learned and something I've taken to go to my next surrogacy of like I kind of want to do a little bit different with my next journey than I have my first one because there's some
Yeah.
things I turn back and reflected. And that's what a lot of this is reflecting of what
Mm,
did I do? What could I do better? But you don't just do that with the surrogacy, you do it with everything. What could I have done better with my
mm,
postpartum with my own kids that I could do better now? So I think it's a whole thing. In every conversation I say, I didn't mention that,
mhm.
or I maybe didn't explain that well. Let
Yeah,
me
because I
let me
think it's a
dive a
lot
little bit
about
more deeper
education,
into it
right?
for sure.
Because it's surrogacy is so widely known, but sometimes it's still not, or you know, misinterpreted or misunderstood. And so I think it's so amazing to be able to
Hmm.
express your experience, share the knowledge that you have, and then again, that's just educating somebody that might have been super close-minded about it or thought like, oh no, that's not right. Maybe it's not for them, but they understand the gift that you gave, the sacrifice that you gave, and then also it makes me very happy to
Oh
hear
yeah.
that, like, even like, yes, it's rewarding to be a surrogate, yes, it's all these things, you like find a different kind of strength in your own body, but then to take that outside of surrogacy, right? Like better skincare, like we talk about that all the time at group. I'm like, girls, do your skincare in 30s, like don't wait, so all these things, like, yes, our community is surrogacy driven, but it's also, these are things that we don't take care of ourselves as mothers, right? We tend to put ourselves to the wayside. And then all of a sudden we get later in life and we're like, oh, we didn't do that, or we're tired, or maybe we're not where we want to be physically, all these things. So that's amazing that you're working on that constantly. Like, right, we're always in work in progress, but if you can incorporate that into your surrogacy and something simple as skincare, heck yeah, I love to give skincare as raffles, right? So I'm gonna keep doing it. And so, I think we touched on my kind of final question in my section here too, is just educating the masses or your community, right? And so, what is the most common question you get when someone's like, wait, you were a surrogate? What does that mean? And what did that look like for you? What's like your just general comment or question that you find most often?
The question, I mean, I've had
Mm,
5 teachers come and ask me is why? And it's
mm,
what made you
mm,
want to do it, or why did you decide to do that? Because you're involved in your kids' community at school, you're involved with your kids. Like, how can
yeah.
you continuously, I guess, stretch yourself that thin? And I look at them and I go, because if you really
Mm-hmm.
value it, you will put that effort into it. And that effort
It's
doesn't,
your
it's
calling.
not effort. It's just a role. I mean, it just
Yeah.
flows. Yeah. You just continuously flow with it. So that's the one question is why do I do it? And how can I stretch myself so thin? And I always
Mm-hmm.
kind of look at them cross-eyed when they ask me those two questions, because I
Mm-hmm.
always tell them, well, it's filling my Y cup. And it's something that a lot of people I know do struggle with fertility. And I look at them
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, how can I help you? How can I do this so you may not have to have a surrogate? Or how can I help you so you
Mm-hmm.
mentally are like, "Ah, I just
Yeah.
went through whatever they went through at that point, whether it's a miscarriage or they got bad news at the doctor. How can I be so positive and supportive about it?" So it's kind of one thing I always try my hardest is continuously be
Yeah.
positive. Even some days that are hard,
Yeah.
you're still
That's
doing
amazing.
something good
Yeah.
no matter
It's
what.
it's great.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love that. And I wholeheartedly agree. And it kind of rolls into my question on, how do you help women navigate the emotional side of surrogacy? So you talked about, people and friends or acquaintances or team or, coworkers asking you, well, why? Or they're sharing their experiences with their own infertility. But on the side of surrogacy and, being a part of our incredible surrogacy group of surrogates, how have you been able to navigate supporting other surrogates throughout their emotional sides of the journey?
So when I went through my failed transfer, I really
Mm,
told Monica, what did I do wrong? And I even asked you, Jessica, I said, what did I do wrong? And
mm,
both of you said it's not what you did wrong. Get out of that mentality, because this is a whole different for your body. This is the first time your body's experiencing this. This isn't the second time. This is all new to your body. And so there was that. And then, I mean, I'm watching our group expand and they're like I don't communicate with my IPs, or I don't
mm,
I'm really getting anxious to take my glucose test. Always reminding them that, you know what, you went through these same milestones in your own pregnancy,
mm-hmm.
and bringing them back. Like, you are strong and you're able to do this. If you're needing a pick me up, call Mama Mo, or
Yeah.
you need something, just like we're all here, honestly, at the end of the day. Like, and I think because I've gone through the failed transfer, I failed the 1 hour glucose, the stress of, am I able to be another surrogate because I failed the 1 hour? I think that's always the scary thing. Or like I asked Hodge while we were on our retreat, man, I can only do surrogacy 2 more times. I've never seen Hodge turn so fast. She goes, what do you mean? You still got 3 more on you. And I was like, oh, but I lost one. And she's like, no, girlfriend, you got 3 more. You're good.
You're
I
so
was like, oh,
funny.
wow. Like I'm still like, I'm not my value, but like I'm still able to do this. And it's not as strict as some people think it is. And it's like I was really scared to ask a lot of questions my first journey. And I'm seeing that like sometimes it can be nerve-wracking. Like, is this really a dumb question to ask? No, no question is dumb because this is all new to all of us. At some point in the time, this is completely new. So I
Wait,
think just
yeah.
making sure.
Yeah, and I've my first surrogacy journeys was way back in 2018, and you know how many questions I've still asked? Like there's always questions to ask, and I think to your point of just, being able to support other surrogates based on your own experience, I think really helps emotionally support each other, right? So it's nice to hear it from somebody who's on the same wavelength as you, right? Like Monica said, it's not just Monica telling you the same exact things over and over and over again, but instead you're hearing it from somebody who has actually one experienced it and experienced it recently. So I think that's amazing that you're so willing to share your experiences with others, and especially with our own surrogates in our own group, because they also feel the same way that we have always felt as surrogates going through our own journeys. So, what's the most rewarding part about kind of being in that mentorship type of role amongst like our specific group of surrogates, or even just if you've come across like your TikTok influencer, like you kind of played a little bit of a mentorship role there with her questions, but what would you say is like the most rewarding part about being able to be in that type of a role?
I thought about this question when you guys like kind of gave me a hint, and like I really thought about this one. Honestly, at the end of the day, it's really looking at the fact of like they I don't know how to say this, but I know how to say it. So it's the fact of like being able to walk them through every process, but I mean being able to, whether you're local, like I have some of them here, or whether you're farther apart, they can still contact you and like still like, hey, I'm questioning this. And it's kind of like a good feeling because I like being a mentor, especially in like work I do and this. It's able to kind of combine. I have a big issue with leadership. I like being that, but they can see you at your most vulnerable stage and still see you succeed, I guess. And that's a huge thing is that we all fall down and we all get back up. And being able to help them when they are at that down is really rewarding to me because some days the journey feels like a struggle, or not a struggle, but just a long, long stretch. And I've been in that long, long stretch. And to find that drive to get their gas tank filled back up is really rewarding, I would say for sure.
Yeah, I could agree with that too. I mean, there's definitely been a time before my first successful journey where I was like, I'll never do this again, right? I can't do this. It didn't work out, and then you're all negative. But having people like you who are able to talk about it and just be positive in that space, I think is so important. And so yeah, that's awesome. I love that, and it's
Yeah.
just shows how selfless you are. So again,
I kind of
to Monica's point
Yeah.
earlier, like just so proud of you. You've
Well,
blossomed.
thank you. I go back to our conversation we had at dinner when you were transferring and I was going for a medical screening. Like I go back
Mhm.
to that conversation a lot and like how you're like, what questions do you have? Like, what is this? I replay that conversation because I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm finally meeting someone from a cell. And I just that dinner was just it's so funny. Ryan goes, it was dinner, Ashley. I was like, yeah, but you don't understand that bond that I felt like the roots were really connected for sure.
Yeah, it was so
So
impactful because it made it real. Like you said, like everything could be done so electronically and online nowadays that like getting to be together in person is just incredible. So we'll go ahead and kind of move on a little bit, but we've kind of talked about this, but in general, what has your like overall experience with a cell conceptions been like?
my overall journey has on it, like my overall experience has been truly positive. And I looked into surrogacy, gosh, 2019, and I automatically failed because I had had gestational diabetes. I was so nervous the first time I conversated with Monica, and I was like, Monica, like I had this come up in my first pregnancy, but never my second. And you're like, okay. And I was like, I was so excited. It was really nerve wracking, and I even told her, and I was like, I think I'm gonna fail. But like you looked at all of my medical records. I had a baby during COVID. Like those were some really rough times that I feel like were rough for a pregnancy. And you're like, girl, we got this. Like So it's just like where some people think it's like bad, it's really not that bad. Like you have to take it from an outside viewer's end. It's really not that bad. And so it's been, all my worries have been like disintegrated. And it's really nice that I'm like the email I sent you over the weekend. Oh my gosh, blah, 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 blah. I just word vomited in my email. And Ryan's like, you really sent her that email? I sure did. Because you know what? I know she'll respond back. Like whether it's a good job, Asher, hey, I got you. It doesn't matter. I can word vomit to you and you're just like, hey, keep it up, or hey, it's okay. We can go on to the next step. It does not matter. So it's really just having, no matter what stage you're at, whether it's medical records and the dragging of trying to figure out, especially military, someone who's in the military, you can deliver one child in Hawaii, another in Alaska, and one in Tennessee. It can be a lot. And it's, you make sure that we understand where we're at in the process from start to finish, because it can be sometimes long
Yeah.
because you're depending on other people.
Right,
And
right. So
that's really hard.
yeah, and that kind of rolls into just being supported by the agency and how important it is to have a supportive agency, a supportive staff within that agency, and an interactive agency, right? Like you said, like you can literally text or email or call any one of the staff members of a cell and be like rallied up. So I love that. And I love that your overall experience has been positive. And I love that word because that's really what it should be, right? We're doing something so selfless and growing these little tiny human beings that wouldn't be here without us. And so I love that so much. What has it been like building relationships with like the coordinators and staff and other surrogates through a cell conception?
It's been a lot of fun. I've met Morgan before she was pregnant and stuff. And so, and
Yeah.
to watch her grow into her role has been really cool. But watching Peyton when she first started to now, she is just like, she's the life of the party.
Yeah.
And like, she totally gets it from you. Like, it's just nice to see you guys all like just evolve, like how much the cell has evolved from when I first started to now. Like it's mind blowing to me because how much of a family vibe, Monica, you have really made your team, and it rolls off into all of the circuits, and
Yeah. No, yeah.
that's a huge thing
I
for sure.
Yes,
that yeah,
yes.
like I get weepy
Monica,
when the girls talk like this. But yeah, I mean, obviously, like
Monica, you're yeah.
nothing makes me happier than hearing that the retreats are worth it, and like being able. Nothing's better than to be able to hug everybody, and like Ashley's in Montana and I'm in California, and we have a very close relationship. So like distance doesn't matter, but then it's always amazing to be able to connect. Like when the girls are in town, if they happen to be at a San Diego clinic, they come by. Ashley's a talker, I'm a talker, like we do just fine together, so we sit in the office and I don't know, we talked about 400 different things. I don't even know if we talked about anything surrogacy, so I mean, I think that's so important. It's surrogacy is big, but it's the human component is bigger. It's about being moms, it's about being women, it's about rising up with everybody. And I think you, Ashley, especially, like you round that out perfectly. And I couldn't be prouder for you to be one of my girls. And I think you're right. Like you've been here from the get-go and have seen a lot of growth, and it speaks volume to you. Just that, for Morgan, who's, for the girl, if you're not familiar with all our staff here, she's one of the girls that works here and is pregnant with her first baby. Like, it's just so remarkable that you are excited for her too. Like, I think it just, again, speaks volumes to who you are, and, all of that. So it'll kind of lead to my next question is, I know we've touched on a lot of these similar topics, but again, to like, how, because we really value the sisterhood, the community, for a lack of a better word, with the girls, and hope that extends well past surrogacy, because this is a part of your life, but like who you are, it can shape you moving forward, but you're not always a surrogate forever, right? And so I want to kind of hear your perspective on how much that's helped you, or how you are hoping the future will look with the sisterhood, as you move forward, like being a mentor.
I mean, going back, like I said, I'm a military spouse,
Mhm.
and so, or I was a military spouse, and so that badge kind of stays with me because no matter
Yeah.
what, I can relate to someone who's new. That's, I'm going to boot camp. My husband's at A school or C school or is away for a deployment. Like that stayed with me, and I still can help out to a lot of like girls that are going through that. But that's it's almost like no difference with a cell, like, or being a surrogate, I guess, in general. Like you still have something to bond over, and those are milestones that you reach, and you can always look back. Like my husband's cousin was a surrogate, and she's like, I medically retired, right? Or Tessa's softball like friend, her mom was a surrogate. She retired out. But like we can still relate, even though time has changed and how medical is done and stuff like that. We can still relate with that fact. And it only that's a
Mhm.
smidge of our friendship that we bond over, and we're able to, no matter what stage. So I think coming from the military background and then now being a surrogate,
Yeah.
I have a bigger range of not friends or but like I mean I do I have a bigger selection of
Mhm.
circle that is my circle's a little bit bigger now because I can relate to things or someone who's on the other end
Mhm.
of like an egg donor and stuff like that. I mean, I have one of our teachers goes, actually, my daughter's doing egg
Yeah.
donation. I was like, whoa, that's like part of surrogacy too. Like there's a whole nother side to that. And contacting her daughter and talking with her, that was really awesome because I've always wanted to do an egg donor,
Mhm.
but I got into surrogacy first
Mhm.
and I aged out of the egg donation for sure. But I'm able to like explain to her that like yes, there's shots and yes, there's medical and there's all this, but like you're still doing it like and it's okay. So I mean, we
Yeah,
still
for
it's
sure.
in the same genre. I feel like if you want to look at it that way, but
Y-
I'm able to even help them understand that like it's a
Mhm.
step by step process and we got this.
Yeah.
Like you just have
It's
to
kind of
continue looking.
it's kind of like a permanent badge. Like even if
Yeah.
you are retired out or choosing not to do any other surrogacy journey, is like the title of being a surrogate will always live with you and the legacy continues, right? No matter what, no matter if you're even if you're not carrying again that surrogacy badge and that surrogate badge is never taken from you or from us and our experience and our knowledge and our legacies will continue on and I think that you're in that thick
Yeah.
of it and
Yeah.
I think that's so great.
I mean,
Oh,
my daughter says she wants to be just like mom, so she wants to do
Oh,
love
surrogacy
that.
too. And I was like that's just kind of something cool. Like she was like, I want to be like mom. I want to have a military husband, and I want to be a surrogate. And it's like thinking about them at this young an age,
For sure.
they're going through it just as much as I
Mhm.
am, but they go through
Yeah,
it
and
in
you
their
made
own
a post
ways
about that
for
one
sure.
time, like,
So
protecting your girls, explaining surrogacy to them. But yeah, I think to speak to that, you're teaching them however they pay it forward. Like, this is your version of paying it forward and being helpful to your community through either through, the school, through surrogacy, through the military. Ultimately, all you're teaching them is to be kind, to be open, to be loving, and so however they present that out into the world is all you can ask, right?
yeah,
And so I think you should be very proud of yourself and your family and all you've accomplished with surrogacy and all you're going to accomplish. And, like Hodge said, just
thank you.
because, like, obviously you're at the beginning of your second surrogacy, but, should you do a third or if two's the end, it's truly in I know we say it a lot, but it's not just a catchphrase. Like, it's never the end with us. Like, the goal is to have surrogates like you who choose to be a mentor, who enjoy it, to really help those newbies out because they're going into it not knowing terminology, not even knowing, left from right, and they think they're the only ones that are experiencing it, or they're not sure they're not sure they can talk about a failed transfer, but we talk about all that stuff, and the more girls that are willing to share their story, say that this was my delay or I had this and I experienced it and I thought I was the only one. Like, we just had a post recently in group where one girl shared her story and 15 people said, well, I've had that too. But obviously that's not always, like, that's not the first bubbly post. And so I think, again, just keep doing exactly what you're doing, keep being you, and we couldn't be more grateful. And like I said, I'm so proud to call you one of my girls. I'm glad to know you, and I'm glad to know the girls and Ryan and everybody. So yeah, we're so happy for you, and I can't thank you enough for all the effort you put in. Taking your personal time and spreading the word for sure.
yeah.
It,
So,
it,
and lastly, I think too, as we get listeners in on the podcast and how you will continue to share your journey and your experiences and just knowledge about surrogacy and the industry that we're in, how can people find you? Like, what is your Instagram handle and how can people contact you and reach out if they'd like?
so my Instagram handle is Cashley with a K.
Mhm.
Oh, what is it? Yeah, it's like Cashley with a K, and I think there's two H's. So it's K Ashley, but with two H's. And then I really have started, thanks to Peyton getting on TikTok. I'm still
Oh,
kind of getting used to it and everything. So there's that. But I feel like I'm on Instagram a lot more. And I try to do one live at least every couple weeks. I'm not so prone on that, but I am trying to get more involved with it. But if you're out in Montana, anywhere in Montana or anywhere in Billings, I'm
And
definitely
we'll tag like your
here to
handles
talk.
and all of
So
that so
yeah,
people can find you. And I want to, thank you again for taking time to talk with us. And like Hodge said, if you have any questions that you want to reach out to Ashley, she's clearly always there to answer any questions that anybody has. Yeah, thank you so much. We'll
thanks,
talk to everybody
ladies.
soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.